A lot of good work has been done to move away from this old stereotype of a knight as this clumsy, lumbering figure, over-encumbered by extremely heavy armor, who could barely get up off the ground or not at all, and had to be hoisted into the saddle by a crane. Now, they did hoist to get those knightly gains, strength gains, mind you, not bodybuilder-like mass. And you could blame the Victorians for the misconception of the crane, but they weren't even serious about it. It was supposed to be a caricature. So we're the dummies for taking it seriously for even half a second. Anyway, there are a lot of good visual demonstrations of the mobility and flexibility in a full suit of plate. This is a good one. Showing a full sprint, fireman's carry, which is less about mobility and more about the weight of armor and strength, cartwheel, Dark Souls roll, vaulting onto a horse stand-in, jumping jacks, where the most annoying part is the dagger dancing around, range of motion. I've done that kind of demonstration too with just leg armor a long time ago, 12 years. Anyway, that's a good one too, showing various cuts in armor. You can see it looks very similar to the way you would move without armor. This is drawing from a medieval source about what a knight was able to do. And this is quite impressive. Climbing the underside of a ladder in full armor, that takes a lot of strength. Bouldering in a suit of plate, also very impressive. And various acrobatics. This in particular is pretty cool. You get the idea. However, when it comes to debunking misconceptions, there's always a certain risk, a pitfall, namely overcorrection, which can easily happen. And not even really necessarily as a result of what the person doing the debunking does, but more like the response from people who see it, where then they go way too far in the opposite extreme, and then they might think, oh, actually, medieval armor doesn't hinder you at all. It doesn't limit you in any way. You can do whatever. Chill out with that. Of course, it does still limit the range of motion, even if not as much as you would think. And it adds a lot of weight that you have to carry around. It makes you a little bit sluggish. It's illustrated in this video by Robinswords, showing the mobility, but also getting up from the ground, you can see, is a little bit of a struggle. I mean, at least compared to getting up without armor. He's also talked about how exhausting leg armor is. And I know that from personal experience as well, having had leg armor before and sparred with it. Yes, it is quite fatiguing. So you shouldn't think that fighting in armor is a walk in the park. And then when you move beyond the Middle Ages, it gets a lot worse. Or I should say, some armor. As usual, it depends. So here's a full suit of plate from the 16th century, which is perfectly good in terms of weight. Pretty light, as far as the full suit is concerned. So the breastplate weighs 2.25 kilograms, about 5 pounds, so not bad at all, right? But unfortunately, those pesky guns came around and made things just a little more uncomfortable. Now suddenly the low-born rabble can take down a noble knight with those boomsticks, right? So if you want the armor to stand a chance against that, at least at certain distances, not too close, hopefully, and you're gonna have to make the armor thicker. There you can see the dent from proofing the armor. So they would fire at it to make sure that it can withstand gunfire. Something I've commented on before, the shape of the armor. You can see how it forms ramps on the sides, basically, to make bullets more likely to glance off to the sides. Helps against melee weapons too, but it's even more important against gunfire. That's the kind of leg armor that was very common at the time. So just these tassets would go all the way down to the knees, as opposed to having separate leg armor, and particularly not on the lower legs. And then the stereotype of heavy armor is suddenly true. The worst case example of this is siege armor. Looking at this armor here, you can tell it's pretty massive, right? What would you guess? How much does it weigh, roughly? You probably didn't accidentally guess exactly 6.2 kilograms or 13.5 pounds, which is just a helmet, unfortunately. The breastplate weighs 22 kilograms, or 48 pounds. So about the same as this entire suit that weighs just under 22 kilograms. Why on earth would they make it this ludicrously heavy? Well, look at the siege guns. It's a bit difficult to convey the dimensions in the video, but those bores are huge. These are massive, long, heavy firearms that pack quite a punch. That's why they often wore partial armor like this example that weighs a bit over 11.3 kilograms or 25 pounds. It's not that much, but it also has significantly less coverage than a full suit. This breastplate here is a bullet dent. Technically, bullet is not the right term because it was a round lead ball, but ball dent does not sound right. This one weighs 5.2 kilograms or about 11.5 pounds, so considerable weight for just the breastplate. And by that I mean just the breastplate. Note that the back plate is listed separately, which is another 2.5 kilos. This one here doesn't list the individual weights for each part, but you can tell 23 kilograms or 50 pounds for partial armor. No visor, no arms, no legs. That is really heavy. This one, on the other hand, also partial armor, but with arms, weighs almost 10 kilograms less. So it's not all the same. And when we look at this Gothic plate here, I mean, this is almost the 16th century, late 15th, but 27 kilograms is also, not exactly a lightweight, but at the same time, it does include gauntlets and sabatons and everything else. So yes, most historical armor is lighter than you might think, and definitely lighter than the old stereotype, which has been thoroughly debunked. And there is also significant variation within centuries. There's heavier and lighter and all that, but heavy armor did exist in history as well. Not super common, and even armor in the age of gunpowder could still be relatively light, but that also doesn't mean that it's super easy to wear and won't exhaust you. It absolutely will, and won't restrict your range of motion. It will, and definitely will restrict your vision and possibly breathing. Depending on the type of helmet, the ventilation may not be amazing. Yeah, it's not a walk in the park, as said, but it's doable, and knights trained for it. They were very fit. They could deal with it. So yeah, the picture is a little more nuanced, as always. Anyway, hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching, and take care, folks. Would not be such a great day in the life of a knight to be stabbed in the butt.